From Lieutenant Commander Brown to Mr. Kenmore. Subject: Cooperation and courtesy in rocket recovery vehicle launchings. 1. There is a regrettable lack of coordination and courtesy in the launching of rocket recovery vehicles, space wagons, in the normal operation of the platform. 2. The maintenance of discipline and efficiency requires that the commanding officer maintain overall control of all operations at all times. 3. Hereafter, when a space vehicle of any type is to be launched, the commanding officer will be notified in writing not less than 1 hour before such launching. 4. The time of such proposed launching will be given in such notification in hours and minutes and seconds, Greenwich Mean Time. 5. All commands for launching will be given by the commanding officer or an officer designated by him. Joe received the memo as he was in the act of writing a painstaking report on the maneuver Mike had carried out. Mike was radiant as he discussed possible improvements with later and better equipment. After all, this had been a lucky landing. For a robot to end up no more than 30 miles from its target after a journey of 4,000 miles, and with a difference in velocity that was almost immeasurable, such good fortune couldn't be expected as a regular thing. The space wagons were tiny. If they had to travel long distances to recover erratic ships coming up from Earth— Joe forgot all about Lieutenant Commander Brown and his memo when the mail was distributed. Joe had 3 letters from Sally. He read them in the great living compartment of the platform, with its 60-foot length and its carpet on floor and ceiling, and the galleries without stairs outside the sleeping cabins. He sat in a chair with thigh grips to hold him in place, and he wore a gravity simulation harness. It was necessary. The regular crew of the platform, by this time, couldn't have handled space wagons in action against enemy manned rockets. Joe meant to stay able to take acceleration. It was just as he finished his mail that Brent came in. "Big news," said Brent. "They're building a big new ship of new design, almost half as big as the platform. With concreted metal, they can do it in weeks." "What's it for?" demanded Joe. "It'll be a human base on the moon," said Brent relievedly. "An expedition will start in 6 weeks, according to plan. As long as we're the only American base in space, we're going to be shot at. But a base on the moon will be invulnerable, so they're going ahead with it." Joe said hopefully, "Any orders for me to join it?" Brent shook his head. "We're to be loaded up with supplies for the moon expedition. We're to be ready to take a robot ship every round. Actually, they can't hope to send us more than 2 a day for a while, but even that'll be 80 tons of supplies to be stored away." The chief grumbled, but somehow his grumbling did not sound genuine. "They're going to the moon, and leave us here to do stevedore stuff?" His tone was odd. He looked at a letter he'd been reading and gave up pretense. He said, self-consciously, "Listen, you guys, my tribe's got all excited. I just got a letter from the council. They've been having an argument about me. Want to hear?" He was a little amused and a little embarrassed, but something had happened to make him feel good. "Let's have it," said Joe. Mike was very still in another chair. He didn't look up, though he must have heard. Haney cocked an interested ear. The chief said, awkwardly, "You know, us Mohawks are kinda proud. We got something to be proud of. We were one of the 5 nations, when that was a sort of United Nations, and all Europe was dog-eat-dog. My tribe had a big powwow about me. There's a tribe member that's a professor of anthropology out in Chicago. He was there, and a couple of guys that do electronic research, and doctors, and farmers, and all sorts of guys. All Mohawks. And they got together in tribal council." He stopped and flushed under his dark skin. "I wouldn't tell you, only you guys are in on it." Still he hesitated. Joe found a curious picture forming in his mind. He'd known the chief a long time, and he knew that part of the tribe lived in Brooklyn, and individual members were widely scattered. But still there was a certain remote village which to all tribesmen was home. Everybody went back there from time to time to rest from the strangeness of being Indians in a world of pale-skinned folk. Joe could almost imagine the council. There'd be old men who could nearly remember the days of the tribe's former glory, who'd heard stories of forest warfare and zestful hunts, and scalpings and heroic deeds from their grandfathers. But there were also doctors and lawyers and technical men in that council, which met to talk about the chief. "It's addressed to me," said the chief with sudden clumsiness, "in the World by Itself canoe. That's the platform here. And it says— I'll have to translate, because it's in Mohawk." He took a deep breath. "It says, 'We, your tribesmen, have heard of your journeyings off the earth, where men have never traveled before. This has given us great pride, that one of our tribe and kin had ventured so valiantly." The chief grinned abashedly. He went on, "In full assembly, the elders of the tribe have held council on a way to express their pride in you, and in the friends you have made who accompanied you. It was proposed that you be given a new name to be borne by your sons after you. It was proposed that the tribe accept from each of its members a gift to be given you in the name of the tribe, but these were not considered great enough. Therefore the tribe, in full council, has decreed that your name shall be named at every tribal council of the Mohawks, from this day to the end of time, as one the young braves would do well to copy in all ways, and the names of your friends, Joe Kenmore, Mike Scandia, and Thomas Haney, shall also be named as friends, whose like all young braves should strive to seek out and to be." The chief sweated a little, but he looked enormously proud. Joe went over to him and shook hands warmly. The chief almost broke his fingers. It was, of course, as high an honor as could be paid to anybody by the people who paid it. Haney said awkwardly, "Lucky they don't know me like you do, Chief, but it's swell." Which it was. But Mike hadn't said a word. The chief said exuberantly, "Did you hear that, Mike? Every Mohawk for 10,000 years is gonna be told that you were a swell guy. Crazy, huh?" Mike said, in an odd voice, "Yeah, I didn't mean that, Chief. It's fine. But I got a letter. I never thought to get a letter like this." He looked unbelievingly at the paper in his hands. "Mash note?" asked the chief. His tone was a little bit harsh. Mike was a midget, and there were women who were fools. It would be unbearable if some half-witted female had written Mike the sort of gushing letter that some half-witted females might write. Mike shook his head, with an odd, quick smile. "Not what you think, Chief, but it is from a girl. She sent me your picture. It's a swell letter. I'm going to answer it. You can look at her picture. She looks kind of nice." He handed the chief a snapshot. The chief's face changed. Haney looked over his shoulder. He passed the picture to Joe, who said ferociously, "You, Mike! You doggone Don Juan! The chief and me have got to warn her what kind of guy you are. Stealing from blind men, fighting cops." Joe looked at the picture. It was a very sweet, small face, and the eyes that looked out of the photograph were very honest and yearning. And Joe understood. He grinned at Mike, because this girl had the distinctive look that Mike had. She was a midget, too. "She's 39 inches tall," said Mike, almost stunned. "She's just 2 inches shorter than me. And she says she doesn't mind being a midget so much since she heard about me. I'm going to write her." But it would be, of course, a long time before there was a way for mail to get down to Earth. It was a long time. Now it was possible to send up robot rockets to the platform. They came up. When the second arrived, Haney went out to pull it in. Joe forgot to notify Brown, in writing, an hour before launching a rocket recovery vehicle, Space Wagon, according to paragraph 3 of the formal memo, nor the time of the launching in hours, minutes, etc., by Greenwich Mean Time, paragraph 4.